So basically, there's no duty for men to in any way fight in a compelled way.
I mean, having a duty is different than being forced to do something. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I would think if this is central to your society, and then yeah, people would step up and want to do it. If they don't,
Because they're scared.
okay.
Yeah, they're scared. I mean, they're scared, right? Mm-hmm. But I mean, you do realize that many nations, they have compelled service.
I think again, like when we go back to this idea of like engaging in war, I think we need to have a critique on society in general.
Well, we don't even need to do that. I'll just grant for you.
I think we do.
Well, I'm granting it for you. I'm just going to grant for you. Okay, you're right. There should be no compelled service. That still doesn't actually answer, though, why autonomy is the thing in which we should not limit autonomy for people. Why not?
I think there can be instances where we limit autonomy, but I just don't see a reason for abortion.
Well, I think you do. You've already expressed multiple times that there would be...
How is it ethical to force someone to sustain pregnancy?
After 6 months?
Yeah.
So what if it's going to kill the baby?
Okay. I don't think that they have an obligation to give their, for them to have their body used as life support.
So then at 9 months, they can kill their baby?
Again, we would just terminate the connection. So their labor would just be induced. And
you do. Yeah,
the purpose of abortion is centered around pregnancy.
Yeah.
So if you want pregnancy to end, there's a lot of different ways we can do that.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's no necessity in killing the fetus once you're... What do you mean?
Like, for instance, you claim that the mom has bodily autonomy, right? And that shouldn't be violated? And the bodily autonomy is that the baby needs to use her body, right?
Okay.
So what happens if the baby is born and the mom doesn't want to feed the baby?
Well,
Babies are fed with breast milk, right?
Sure. So I think we need to decide what are individual responsibilities and what societal responsibilities.
No, it's about autonomy, I thought.
I haven't even finished. So when we talk about societal responsibilities, obviously, if a parent doesn't want to take care of their child, then they would become a ward of the state. And then the state would take on those responsibilities of caring for the child.
I don't understand. Why can't the mom just choose to not feed the baby until the baby expires?
What do you mean? Is she taking on the parental role?
Yeah, well, she had the baby. Okay, she had it.
Okay.
Let's say she had it at her prom. She was like...
She had it at her prom?
Yeah, she was outside. She had a prom night dumpster baby, as the Family Guy would reference
That's terrible.
it. Okay. She had a prom night dumpster baby. And so anyway, she has the baby.
Okay.
This is important. It's actually an important distinction. So anyway, she has the baby. And then
the dumpster is an important distinction.
She doesn't want to feed it. She just doesn't want to because it's her body and it's her autonomy. So she just lets it die.
So, if once the baby is born,
Yeah.
As a society, obviously the care for the child needs to be determined.
Yeah.
So at that point, the mother can either claim the parental responsibility, which comes with all the obligations of obviously feeding the child, or if they don't claim it, then obviously that baby would be a ward of the state. So now the mother is in possession of a baby that's not hers. So I think in order to avoid kidnapping charges or harms towards a ward of the state, she needs to turn it over to the state.
So she has a duty to turn the baby over to the state?
Correct, because she's in possession of a ward of the state. So it's essentially almost a kidnapping charge.
Okay. So I want to make sure I get this right. So the mother, if she says this baby is mine, then she has the obligation to breastfeed it, right?
I mean, I would say breastfeeding would be a reasonable obligation, but why is there not formula?
Well, because formula is extremely unhealthy for babies.
Well, I mean, formula is what has saved the lives of babies.
Yes, when there's no, their mom's breast milk around, sure.
Right. A lot of women don't have the capacity to breastfeed.
No, most of them have the capacity to breastfeed.
They don't.
They do.
A lot of women struggle with
a lot.
breastfeeding.
Yes, you can even make that claim because I would say a lot is like 1% of women would be a lot.
Do you think that if a mother chooses not to breastfeed, that she's harming her child?
Well, no. Well, yeah. But what I'm looking at is.
Do you think that's to the degree of neglect? Or that she should not?
I'm not saying that it's neglectful. There could be reasons for it, including ignorance. There could be just like ignorance, things
Should
like
she
that.
retain custody?
Even if she doesn't, under most cases, probably yes.
Because she's feeding the baby through.
Yeah, but I think that I think that there should be a state mandatory propaganda campaign that mothers should breastfeed their children. Yes.
Should she receive legal consequences if she chooses not to?
If she had the capacity to do so and decided to give the kid poison instead, yeah, probably.
Well, I'm not. So when you say poison, you mean formula?
Yeah.
Okay.
In comparison to breast milk, it's poison.
Okay. So when
you get most of your immune system from your mother's breast milk.
Sure. When the child is born, you acknowledge that breast milk has not come in.
No. No.
Okay, so breast milk hasn't necessarily come in once the child is born. And if you don't...
Yeah, most of the time breast milk has been there before the child's born.
No.
Yeah.
There's, I believe it's called colostrum, which is not the same as breast milk. It's more like a clear liquid.
How do you think babies used to eat?
Well, one second, because this is the process that I had to go through when I gave birth. Like, I breastfed for 8 months, and it took... I think at least 36 hours before my breast milk came in after birth. And so when you have that choice, when parents make that decision...
You mean after the colostrum?
Correct.
Yeah. Oh, Lord. So how do babies eat?
One second. So if you don't essentially start engaging in nursing, then you don't know your capacity for lactation. So I'm asking if once birth happens and the doctor's like, are you going to breastfeed or we should get formula?
Yeah.
Is there some kind of legal obligation for you that the mother tries to breastfeed?
I don't understand. What are you asking me?
After birth, do you think women should be forced to attempt to nurse?
I think that there should be nursing as soon as it's possible to nurse.
Well, that's a yes or a no. Do you think women should be forced to nurse post-birth?
Maybe not.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then how would
because it would
you
need to be
ever,
within the confines of reason.
Well, how would you ever then like say that someone can have legal consequence for not nursing after birth?
Okay, so I see what you're saying now. Let me get this right. There is a small gap or a small possible window where you can't breastfeed after baby born. Right?
You can't breastfeed?
Can't.
You can nurse, but it's not fully breast milk.
Yeah, okay, so you can breastfeed?
You can nurse, but again, it's not fully breast milk. It's not the complete nutritional breakdown.
Is the baby eating?
Not in the complete way that breast milk does. Because that is something
eating?
that is something that you do monitor with your doctor because they want to make sure.
Okay, so I see. We're speaking past each other, so let's back up. When you put your nipple in the baby's mouth, is the baby getting food?
It depends.
Most of the time.
In adequate amounts, that's debatable, but some.
And how early do they usually start getting an adequate amount within?
It depends. Again, I had my son quite a while ago. I want to say mine came in around 36 hours. But,
so 3 days?
It was a day and a half.
Day and a half?
Yeah. But again, I think it's just, when does puberty occur? It just depends.
So hang on, so let's back up. So milk, your full breast milk comes in within a day.
Yeah, could be a couple days, could be a day. Sure.
Yeah, I was just reading. The reason I said 3 days is because it said 3 to 5 when I was looking up on the colostrum, right?
Yeah.
But it can be as early as 12 hours, maybe.
Yeah, and I think even some of my friends have had breast milk before birth.
Yeah, I don't see any problem with feeding the baby that. Yeah, that seems fine.
So but if you don't begin nursing, then you would essentially inhibit that process to where you just never produce breast milk.
So you should start doing that then.
So I'm asking you, should mothers be forced to nurse post-birth, even though we don't know their capacity to breastfeed?
Yes.
So you think women should be forced to breastfeed?
Yeah.
All right.
The problem with that is what? You have accepted responsibility for the baby, right? By your worldview?
Yes, but
So
obviously
then
if
you
there
have
are
an
other,
obligation to feed the baby.
So then, yeah, and obviously there are other means which you can feed the baby.
Yeah, poisonous means.
There are still other means.
So do you think that feeding kids poison is a good idea?
I think kids that are fed is best. Absolutely.
So you just like, would you give the baby like straight fucking chocolate? Because it's
Of course not.
Why?
Because breast milk and formula are essentially the only liquids at that point where an infant can get their full nutritional profile.
You're not getting your full nutritional profile though.
I mean, you are. Otherwise, you would die.
Though you're not. No, you wouldn't necessarily mean you die, but it would inhibit the development of your brain. It would inhibit the development of the brain.
I'm not interested in having a discussion between formula and breast.
Well, which one do you think is better for the baby?
I think fed is best.
What?
But I opted for.
That's not what I asked. What a cop out. Which one is better for the baby?
I opted to breastfeed.
Why?
Because it was cheaper.
And you thought it was better for the baby, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So then the thing is like, why couldn't I compel you to do that? Or shouldn't I be able to?
I think it should be like, obviously, the person's will. I think will should be
Yeah, but now
considered.
you're in charge of somebody else. Like if I fed my kid chocolate every single day as his only source of nutrition, wouldn't you advocate that the state came in and took that kid from me?
If you fed them chocolate every day,
No, that's all I fed them.
is chocolate. Mm-hmm. I mean, if they were starving, yeah.
Yeah, so depriving.
I mean, I guess at what degree are we deciding that parents have their children taken away based on their diet?
We don't always know what's optimal, but in this
Wouldn't
case
that
we
be
do.
arbitrary?
In this case, we do actually know what's optimal.
Wouldn't that be arbitrary?
In the one case, sure.
Okay.
But in this case, no. We actually do know what's optimal here.
So I think if we're talking about like what we would want to happen, I agree with you that like breast milk is great and it's the optimal choice. I don't think someone should be forced to do so.
Why not? Seems like a good idea to force them to. If you're going to take possession of your child, I don't see any problem with them telling you that, hey.
Because it's your body.
So?
I mean, so I think obviously then the other alternative, would you have an issue if they pump?
No.
And then breastfeed?
But that's the same thing. It's breast milk.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the most optimal thing to give them, right?
I think, again, this would just relate down to autonomy because obviously everyone's conditions are different.
Yeah, but in this case, you have independence.
I think more women would breastfeed if we had more social safety nets when it comes to women giving birth.
Yeah, but I also think they would breastfeed if they say you need to breastfeed this child. You must.
I think it's just an unreasonable. So what if your child?
I think it's the most reasonable.
What if your child needed blood? Would you be obligated? Would you want legal laws that parents are forced to give them their blood?
Yeah. And the problem with this in society would be what?
What about kidney?
No.
So why are you drawing the line
I
there?
draw it the same place that you would on the idea that if it's going to kill you.
Getting rid of your kidney wouldn't kill you.
Oh, yeah. It's going to lead to your demise much faster.
It wouldn't kill you, though.
Yes, it would. That's killing you.
It's not. You can survive with one kidney.
For less time than you can survive with two.
It doesn't kill you.
That's killing you.
I mean, you could say the same thing about blood.
Okay, so just to make sure that this is correct,
Then would you do bone marrow?
If I said I'm going to take off 10 years of your life, I'm not killing you?
No, you're not directly killing me.
Oh, okay.
You are limiting my life expectancy, sure.
So if I took your life down to tomorrow, I'm not killing you?
If you took my life down to tomorrow, what are you doing?
Or 10 minutes? That's not killing you? If I could just like snap
Again, so if we're talking about like direct cause, obviously things have chain link reactions.
Mm-hmm.
So are you just saying like you do anything, you're responsible for any link in the chain? Or are we talking about what...
I'm saying that your duties to your children need to comport with reason. And so I think that you can make at least a strong enough case.
If there's an alternative food source, I don't think...
Hang on. I think that you can make a strong enough case that if no other blood was present to give from donors, that a parent had a duty and obligation to give their blood to a child. Hang on. To a child, and that would comport with reason just fine. Whereas it may not comport to reason to say that this could have dire effects on your health. Giving them a kidney, that's a whole different situation.
I mean, I don't think it is, because I mean, you would even say like pregnancy can come with severe health complications that can reduce your life expectancy.
Yeah, sure.
So then I don't have to do that now?
No, you still have to do that. Yeah.
Then that's inconsistent.
What's the inconsistency?
You just said I don't have to give the kidney because that comes with health complications
It's not because it comes with health complications. It's because this particular complication demonstrated to always shorten life. Pregnancy is not. In fact, pregnancy has been demonstrated to elongate life.
If there's one instance where someone gives a kidney and it doesn't demonstrate a shorter life expectancy, then it's okay.
How could you demonstrate that?
I don't know. How are you demonstrating that? It always does.
The only way that we're demonstrating that...
Aren't these just typical outcomes?
Well, we can just compare people who give kidneys to people who don't give kidneys, and then you can just correlate the lifespan. Simple.
But that doesn't mean always.
Yeah, it's almost always the case.
But it doesn't mean always.
There could be some exception, just like in pregnancy.
So the same thing could apply with a kidney.
But if there's a single... Here's the thing, though. If there's a single exception to something, that doesn't mean we wouldn't legislate based on the general rule.
But then your
because you can have an exception biologically to anything.
Because your standard is inconsistent.
The standard's still consistent.
I think if you and I are going to establish what a parental obligation is or responsibility, it's just going to be arbitrary.
Yeah, but okay.
To what severe degree does a parent need to experience in order for that not to be a duty?
If you make the case of arbitrary, then you can say everything is arbitrary. The age of consent's arbitrary, right?
There are a lot of things that are...
Is the age of consent arbitrary?
What do you mean?
Is the age of consent...
I don't want to pivot.
Can you answer my question?
No,
I'm checking you for your consistency on arbitrariness.
No, I'm checking you for being your consistency.
And I'm happy to answer, but when you
I have to go first?
When you say a thing is because we're talking about what's arbitrary. So if you say a thing is arbitrary, almost everything is arbitrary.
We already agreed that essentially establishing when consciousness occurred is arbitrary.
Yeah, but I'm talking now, I'm saying, is the age of consent arbitrary?
In terms of what?
In terms of there's no...
If the age of consent is 16, no, that's not arbitrary. It's obviously 16.
How did you come up with it being 16?
I mean, that would depend on the reasoning.
So it's arbitrary.
In some cases, sure.
But if it is the case, and I grant to you that, hey, no, it's not arbitrary because you're 16, then no, it's not arbitrary that you don't have to give a kidney, but you do have to give blood. That's not arbitrary now.
It is. How are you, selecting at what degree the parent has to experience in order for that?
How are you selecting the age of consent?
I think we can obviously have markers when it comes to the age of consent.
So we can have delineations between harm factors where we can comport them to reason when it comes to giving blood or kidneys. Simple.
Do you think parents have an obligation to experience torture in order to keep their children alive?
I think that you can make the case that a father or mother should have some duty towards trying to experience, or not trying to experience it, but that they may need to suffer in order to keep their kid alive. Yeah.
I don't disagree, but I'm asking, is that a legal expectation that we will torture you to keep your child alive?
That's a moral expectation then.
So obviously, but you do want to have laws that would require parents to be tortured to keep their children alive.
What's the torture?
I mean, forced pregnancy is torture.
How is that torture?
Well, I mean, it's classified as torture by the UN. I would say it would just meet a specific threshold of suffering.
Okay, well, then I would say that it's torturing the baby.
How?
So, because you're going to kill it. I would say that that's a form of torture.